Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King Jr., 1929 to 1968, an Atlanta-born Baptist minister. He was one of the most revered leaders in the desegregation movement in the United States, and many credit Dr. King with being the father of the modern American civil rights movement. King followed in the footsteps of his grandfather and father, attending and graduating from Morehouse College in Atlanta, and afterward he attended Crozer Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania, where he was awarded a bachelor's degree in divinity in 1951. He ultimately earned his doctorate in theology in 1955 from Boston University. In 1954, King accepted a position as pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, where 1 year later Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her seat to a white person on a city bus. King subsequently led a boycott of the bus system, during which time his home was firebombed and he was arrested and beaten. A member of the executive committee of the NAACP, his philosophy promoted nonviolent protests, equality, voting rights, eradication of poverty, and economic change. He was also vehemently opposed to the war in Vietnam. In 1957, King, along with Ralph David Abernathy and others, founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in order to enlist African American churches to become involved in the desegregation movement. King was elected president of the conference, vowing to follow his Christian faith as well as the nonviolent teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. King urged his followers to rely on nonviolent resistance, including protests and civil disobedience, to achieve desegregation. Several organizations collaborated to organize the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, where Dr. King delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech. Dr. King was named Time magazine's Man of the Year in 1964, and he became the youngest person to win the Nobel Peace Prize. His acceptance speech is widely considered one of the finest ever delivered. His comment, "I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality," has become a political rallying cry. The 1964 Civil Rights Act was partially a result of the issues raised at the 1963 March on Washington, and the act was signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson, eliminating radical racial segregation in accommodations, education, employment, housing, and voting. Between 1965 and 1968, Dr. King began working for economic equality for all people. But on April the 4th, 1968, King was in Memphis, Tennessee, to advocate for striking sanitation workers when he was killed by an assassin. After his death, his widow, Coretta Scott King, founded the King Center in Atlanta, which is dedicated to ensuring King's legacy remains relevant and that others follow his lead of nonviolent change. From his famous letter from a Birmingham jail, I quote, "An individual who breaks a law that conscience tells him is unjust and who willingly accepts the penalty of imprisonment in order to arouse the conscience of the community over its injustice is in reality expressing the highest respect for the law. Martin Luther King, Jr.